Okay, so here's the MPCNC. I don't know how much detail we'll catch in this video, but I'm going to show the basic setup I use for cutting a sheet of foam board. I'm just going to be doing a test cut, so I'm going to take a kind of ugly sheet of foam board that has a few scars and mistakes in it already. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for the bow in the foam board. Foam board is never flat, it always has a bit of a bow. You can see in this case it's going like this. You want it to bow down in the center and go down this way. My spoil board is just a piece of pink foam, cheap 1/2 inch foam from the, I got a big 4x8 sheet and cut it down with some carpet tape on the back to hold it down to my work table. My foam board I will bring in, and what I do to square everything up is I have marks on my table that show where the foam gets taped down so it'll be square to the machine. And then I take a 1/2 inch square dowel, hold it on this edge of the foam here, and bring my foam board up against it. Where it is left and right doesn't matter a whole lot. You can adjust the machine. I've got plenty of extra movement here. But I like to keep it square like this. And then, since our foam is bowed up in the edges, we're going to pin it in the corners. And I just use standard T-pins. I use 2 in each corner, which I put down in a cross against each other. So I put them in like this so that they try and hold that in. I do 2 in each corner. So that's 2 down there, 2 up here. And then in between I do 1 in the center, which again I put in at an angle so that it tends to get more of a grip and hold the foam a bit better. We'll come over here, we'll do this corner down. 1, 2, and we'll do our last corner. 1, 2, and then we'll tag my centers just to help hold them down. This is why I try not to cut right to the edge of the foam board. I like to leave a little bit of room just so I have room for these hold downs. I need to finish my my vacuum table one of these days. I have the sheet board cut, and I had started to machine a pocket into one of these foam boards to create one, and I made this nozzle to go in there, but ran into a few issues with the way it was working and put it aside for another day. Alright, I have the needle cutter installed. I don't know how great the view of it is from there, but trust me, this is the needle cutter. The ESC I have hooked to a just to a servo tester for control right now. I do have wires run so I can control it off the ramps board. I don't right now. I really should now that I've got things dialed in better, but I just haven't gotten to that. I'm using these shower curtain hangers to keep my wires out of the way, and so far it's working really well. The big problem is I still need to lengthen the Z-wire, so sometimes I'll drag my ramps board around, which isn't great. Before each cut, I put just a drop or 2 of light machine oil, sewing machine oil, any kind of light oil, on a bit of cotton ball here shoved in around the needle. You don't want to use too much or it'll really make a big mess on your cuts, but just a drop or 2 really does help. The power from my needle cutter comes through here, around, and I'm using this RC charger for LiPo batteries to power it, because this has a motor driver mode and lets me feed it at 7.4 volts instead of the full 12 volt. I could run it at 12 volt and just use a lower setting, but I like having the finer control over speed that running at a lower voltage gives me. So right now I'm running this power supply just for this, and this converted PC supply powers the MPCNC, which I'll plug in down here. Still on my list is mounting all that clean and adding an e-stop button for it and building it all in nice, but I'm having too much fun using the thing to stop and improve it. You never have that problem? I do, all the time. So, I'm going to turn this on motor driver mode. And we should hear our beeps from the SC here soon. Don't know if you can hear those over my AC. Sorry about that. It's supposed to be 110 out today, so I'm not turning off the AC. But you can hear we do have it working. My motor is getting really rough, so I do use these. So if I get a little loud, please excuse me. For each cut, I push the needle all the way down and then just drag the machine to where I want my zero position to be and bring down my Z until it just drags. And I try not to check my Z right in the corner, because the corner is always lowest because of that bowing. So I try to check right around here, and I can hear it just barely dragging in a few spots with the needle as low as it goes. So that's just about what I want. I'm still playing around to find out what's optimal with that. Sometimes I get my cuts slightly too deep, sometimes not quite deep enough. It's I need to come up. The big problem is I need that vacuum table, because the foam just isn't consistent enough. There's a lot of depth variation to it. Anyway, we're about ready. I'm going to dial this up to 6,000 RPM, which is what I like to cut at, and then we'll hit go on our. I've already got the SD card loaded with my cut files, so we'll do it. Let's get it going here. Get my hearings on. Check my RPMs. That's about right. Little high, little fast, little slow isn't the end of the world. Select my file, click 1, and let it start cutting. There's not much else to do at this point other than sit back for the next 30 minutes and let the machine do the work. I don't know if this is going to record that long. I don't know if my battery, and I don't know if my memory card have the room for that, so I may stop this before do a full cut. You'll see my short wires causing problems there, but it's still going to work. And here goes, plunging for our first cut. That does not look like a cutting depth. I'm not sure which cut it's doing. Take a look here. Okay, yeah, that's a score cut that it just did. For the upper float, the left float, I think that is. And it looks like that was probably one of the holes. I'm just letting ESSLCAM pick the machining order here, so... Uh-oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. I wonder if I got that in time. Good thing this is just a quick test on some scrap foam. I've never had that happen before. All the fun stuff happens when the camera's rolling. This looks like a full depth cut, so it's probably cutting the actual, one of the actual floats here now. Looks like the lower or right, or whichever one that is. I really should sharpen the needle on this cutter. It's been used for over a year now and it's starting to get really dull. I have a lot of things I really should do. Looks like I may have had my starting position just slightly this way from what I would have preferred, because I've got quite a bit of space here. And looking at my design on the monitor, I can see I had this pretty much right up against the edge of the foam for zero. So I may have started just a hair further over than I needed to, but I've got almost an inch of space on this design, so not the end of the world. Probably going to go ahead and speed this video up at a few points, just so you don't have to sit here and watch at, you know, the neck-breaking 5mm per second speed that I cut at. I think it's 5. Let me check. I'm sorry, 9. I'm trimming along at 9mm per second. I do my Z plunges at 5. But I'll let it finish at least this first outer cut at normal speed. And then we'll just sit back, relax, and let it finish cutting. This is a short cut, 2.5mm deep. It won't go all the way through the foam, but it will go through the top paper and about halfway through the foam, so that it's easy to remove foam. Another short cut. I generally do 3 sizes of cuts. I do 6mm for a full depth cut, which will remove a part. I do 2.5mm for a score cut. And I do 0.75 or 1mm for a marking cut, which denotes some kind of marking on there that I don't want it to actually impact the integrity of the foam, but I still want to have something visible. One of these days I'll probably find a way to mount the laser and the needle at the same time and account for offsets on the position and use the laser for marking, but that sounds like effort, and I'm doing this for fun, so it's pretty darn low on the priority list to get that kind of setup going. Just as a side note, I always wear glasses while doing this. I have had my needle fly off. When I was first setting it up, I always wore my face mask because it scares the heck out of me. But I've gotten a little lazy about that. Ideally, I should still be wearing it. I definitely wear the hearing protection because in here it's pretty loud in such a small area. I've had the needle fly off enough that I know pretty much where it's going to go when it does fly. And since I learned to start using the tack and dialing my speed in, and I'm running it at 6,000 RPM instead of 12,000 RPM, I haven't really had a big problem with needles going flying since. This right here is a marking cut at 0.75 millimeters. It's just enough to score the top layer of the paper. But it's not deep enough to really impact the integrity of the foam. .75 is shallow enough that sometimes the waviness of the foam will cause it to miss some skip spots, but since these are just marking lines for reference, I don't really care. Also, this is not waterproof foam board. If I tried to actually fly this one off water without treating this foam, it would fall apart first try. I do have the waterproof foam board from flight test, but I only have a dozen sheets or so I'm a little miserly with it. What I do have is some Camp Dry water repellent, which works fairly decent. I don't know if it'd be good enough for floats. I also have oil-based Minwax that I've used to coat some of my planes, which has worked pretty well. But for this, I really just want to see if this is going to work. Since I haven't used the machine for a couple of months, I'm out of practice and half forgotten what I've done, so that's part of why I'm making this video, to remind myself how to do it. And that's why I'm using scrapped foam to test before I print the real thing. Weird, the machining order Echelcam picks sometimes. It hasn't done this forecut here yet, and it hasn't done a marking cut here. but it's going over and cutting the doublers next. And it looks like, looking at the preview, after cutting the doublers, it's going to go up and start working on the other float instead of finishing this one. I could override it and tell Cam the order to cut in, but it works. As I feared, I had my starting point just a little too far to the right. And I got too big of a gap here, and I went slightly off the edge here. Not the end of the world. Again, this was just a test piece. I know now when I cut the real foam to start closer to the left edge is my 0 point. was wrong. That very first cut it made wasn't a store cut, it was a marking cut. Right there, you can barely see it. Probably can't see it in the video, but that was the marking cut that it hasn't done yet on this one, where there's going to be a bevel, and that's just an indicator on where to cut the bevel. We're about halfway through, 17 minutes in what should be a 33-minute cut. I find it generally cuts slightly faster than estimated, so might only be about a 30 to 32-minute cut. I added the center span supports because I'm running such a wide machine, or at least just one. I printed more, but haven't installed them yet. And when I went to install it, I found my problem was actually the opposite. This bar is bowed up. So this is actually looser here in the center than it is at the edges. One of these days when I'm not feeling so lazy, I need to loosen up my corners, rotate this bar so that the bow is facing down, and then use this to pull it back up, which will hopefully make things a bit more consistent. For cutting foam, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't make a big difference. But I don't do a lot of milling and other cutting with this machine because of that. And now that it's this big, it's lost a lot of stiffness. When I had it set up as a 2-foot machine, it was much more usable for milling. I need to print the new parts and see if they increase the stiffness enough that I can use this for some light milling again. looks like I lucked out and the damaged parts on this foam board aren't really going to affect these parts much. I could actually build these floats up and waterproof them and try them probably. It fit. I didn't think it was going to, but it did. You'll notice the little black flakes every now and then. That's the cotton with the oil on it getting hot and just disintegrating. I really should have replaced that cotton a while ago. It's past its useful life, but I think I've mentioned I'm lazy. Got more of the damaged area on that doubler than I did on the float. I could have laid these pieces out a bit more effectively to use the foam better, but I was in a bit of a hurry. There's not a whole lot more. I wasn't going to fit all of the parts of the foam on one sheet, so it didn't seem like it was worth that much hassle. Done. We have one last marking cut, and I think that's it then. Oh no, I forgot. We're missing one more score cut here still. done. That's the last cut. I think. Not sure why the machine didn't finish returning to home there. Usually it does. But that only took 26 minutes, so we came in almost 10 minutes under schedule. Well, 8 minutes, which is not bad at all. I'll take that any day. We can go ahead and remove our pins and lift this off. And there we have it, a full set of floats. They should just pop out here. My cuts are through. My Z was slightly off, so this one here is just a little bit in need of a little bit of assistance. For the most part, these should just pop out. Close to the edge, it's a little tricky. Oh, there's a big cut on this side of the foam I hadn't even noticed. Oh well, scrap foam, test pieces, not the end of the world here. These here cut more cleanly. That's, you know, due to my machine not being 100% totally perfectly leveled. Like I was trying to say, I don't know if the audio came out or not, but my bars are slightly warped, so I can't get perfectly level on this machine right now. I'm really considering printing the upgraded parts, but if I do so, I kind of want to switch to the stainless rails, but that sounds like it starts to get expensive and is really what I need to do, but not in the budget right now. This one here didn't come out perfect, so I'm going to give it a little bit of assistance. And there we have them. We can take a closer look here and you can see we have a score, not a score cut, a marking cut there. These are marking cuts and these here are score cuts. So along the score cuts it'll easily open up and snap. And those are score cuts on both sides, so it's trying to snap at the other score cut, which isn't really the one I want it to yet. Sometimes if you need to, just dragging a knife can help encourage that score cut to be the one that'll go. And right here, since this is kind of a weird shape, I've never seen Flight Test do anything like this before, but this is their new intern Anders design. So not surprising, it's a little different. Try and get this part here that gets removed. should have plugged my glue gun in to start heating so I could actually glue this up and demonstrate that it's buildable, but I haven't even watched the build video yet, so for all I know I could be removing foam I shouldn't even be removing right now. I hope not. Because I do want to build these up as a test before I build it out of the nice foam. And this one right here is where that score cut is. So I'll just take my knife, and like I said, I use the marking cut. And you probably can't see it, but the marking cut really just goes through the paper. I don't know if this is even a sharp enough blade. Not bad. Cut through there. Knock this piece loose. Remove it. And I forget if these are A or B folds. My computer went to sleep. Looks like they're B folds. So it should just go like that. This I assume is gonna come up there or something. I haven't printed the bottom and whatnot pieces yet. These will get glued on here, it looks like. And there we go. This is supposed to be an A, so that'll get folded up in there like that. And a float. So that's my basic procedure for cutting foam on the MPCNC. I hope that helps. I hope that helps me. If it helps you, definitely let me know. I appreciate the feedback. Ask any questions down below, and if you do enjoy it and appreciate it and it helps you, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and encourage me to make more. Thanks.